The Eglinton Crosstown LRT has entered what is being described as its final major milestone before opening, a 30-day revenue service demonstration (RSD) that is meant to simulate full-scale operations without passengers aboard. This comes after many years of construction, multiple delays, and a variety of technical and systems integration challenges that have beset the project since it began in 2011. The line in question, of course, is the 19-kilometer 25-station transit corridor being built along Eglinton Avenue in Toronto, designed to link many existing transit hubs and relieve pressure on bus and transit routes. The 30-day test is described as significant because it is designed to run the system exactly as it would operate in regular service, with trains dispatched, station operations, signaling, switching, vehicle systems, and support services all engaged, but with no fare-paying passengers on board. Honestly, the whole thing sounds like the most expensive game of make-believe ever played. They're calling it a revenue service demonstration, which is hilarious because there's no revenue and no service because there are no passengers. So what is it really? Well, it's bureaucrats trying to cover their backsides. They want to say, look, we ran the trains for 30 days without any major issues, so if something goes wrong later, it's not our fault. It's risk management masquerading as progress. They're not testing the trains, they're testing the political liability. They're simulating success because they're too scared to experience the real thing. However, officials from the provincial agency Metrolinx and the Toronto Transit Commission have stressed that this demonstration is not cosmetic. It is the final proving stage of the system's reliability and safety. CEO Michael Lindsay noted that while several issues remain, including vehicle availability, braking system wear, communications, and HVAC systems, he is happy that we're solving those issues now in this trial running period as opposed to when people are trying to ride this line. The commencement of this 30-day phase was officially reported in early October 2025, marking the point at which trains began to run under full operational schedules, empty of passengers, along the entire route. During the test, every aspect from station announcements, track switching, signaling, maintenance facility coordination, and emergency response protocols will be challenged. This revenue service demonstration is essentially the dress rehearsal before public opening. According to Metrolinx, preceding phases included stress testing both system and vehicles, followed by a 14-day trial running period, then the 30-day demonstration. And so what's the purpose of this 30-day trial? Well, supposedly, it's to simulate real service without passengers. But if you don't have passengers, you're not simulating anything. How can you know how the system performs when people are getting on and off, crowding the platforms, using strollers, bikes, wheelchairs, doing all the real things that actually test capacity? Running empty trains for a month doesn't tell you any of that. However, despite this milestone being reached, an official opening date for passenger service has not been confirmed. While some earlier targets had pointed to possibly September 2025, the interim CEO of the TTC acknowledged in July and September that this would likely not happen and that fourth quarter of this year remains a more realistic window for the launch of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Metrolinx has said that the opening date remains conditional on passing this final phase and on surface service adjustments, bus route reconfigurations, and station access readiness. Budget, scope, and delay issues continue to shadow the project. Originally expected to open in 2020, the Eglinton Crosstown has been repeatedly pushed back by legal battles, design changes, construction complications, and, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. It's reported that the line is at least $1 billion over budget, the actual figure does vary, however, and that thousands of deficiencies were identified during the site acceptance and signaling system testing. The significance of this 30-day phase cannot be understated. It is the first time the system will actually be operated exactly as intended. Trains at full schedule, dispatching, switching, station stops, and all subsystems active, and every flaw will be visible. If problems surface during this period, signal faults, vehicle breakdowns, communication failures, platform safety issues, these will need to be resolved before the start of revenue service. In other words, this test acts as a go, no-go gate. From a user perspective, the promise of the Crosstown remains compelling. Once open, the line is expected to cut travel times along Eglinton by up to 60%, as Metrolinx has previously stated, and will link transit hubs including 3 subway connections and 2 GO transit stations. For the thousands of riders who currently rely on surface buses along the corridor, the line is intended to provide faster, higher capacity, more reliable transit service. And don't get me wrong, I understand the importance of safety. Nobody wants to open the line and have it break down on day one. But when safety becomes an excuse to delay everything indefinitely, you're not prioritizing safety anymore, you're prioritizing incompetence. The people running this project are so afraid of being blamed for failure that they'd rather never open it at all. This is the hallmark of bureaucratic thinking, endless caution and zero results. Let's be real. If something serious were still wrong with the Eglinton Crosstown, 30 more days of empty train rides isn't going to fix it. The problems they're worried about, the software, the signal timing, the integration, either work or they don't. You don't find out on day 29 what you couldn't figure out after 14 years. What this really shows is how inefficient and self-protective the entire system has become. Metrolinx, the TTC, and the province, they're all pointing fingers, hiding behind jargon, and wasting time while pretending to make progress. Nevertheless, public confidence has been tested by the repeated delays and shifting timelines. When the TTC said in December of 2024 that June 1st, 2025 was the earliest realistic target, many commuters were skeptical. The repeated message that the system will only open when safe and reliable has become a standard reassurance, but one that some riders interpret as until we're absolutely certain we won't look bad. Because of this, the latest milestone carries both hope and caution. Hope that the end is near, and caution because nothing yet is guaranteed. In practical terms, what works now is what matters. These are things like vehicle reliability, train control software, switching, station operations, emergency protocols, interface with TTC's existing network, passenger flow simulations even though there are no real passengers that are riding this 30-day test, and the broader ecosystem of the LRT, such as maintenance, support, crew scheduling, incident response, accessibility features, fare system integration, etc. The 30-day test will exercise many of these functions under near-real operational conditions. If the system clears the test, the ramp-up to full service can follow. If not, further delay is unfortunately inevitable. One important wrinkle. Though the demonstration is ongoing, the transition of control of operations to the TTC occurred back in June of 2025. The TTC's Transit Control Center now oversees the train movements on the line, marking a major handover milestone for Metrolinx. This handover signaled that the infrastructure is at a point where the builder/installer phase is complete and the operator-maintainer phase has begun. From the provincial leadership perspective, the government under Premier Doug Ford and Transportation Minister Prabhat Sarkaria have repeatedly emphasized that opening will only occur when safe and reliable, and that the project has been way too long. But critics argue that the continuous delays reflect deeper problems of governance, accountability, contracting oversight, and project management culture. The 30-day demonstration is therefore as much about proving institutional readiness as it is about proving technical readiness. Looking ahead, we're going to watch for three key things during this period. Firstly, whether any major faults emerge during the 30-day demonstration. Secondly, whether Metrolinx or the TTC issue a formal opening date or soft launch announcement. And thirdly, how service will be ramped up once the line opens. For example, will it start at full frequency, full station access, full hours of operation, or will it be phased? As Michael Lindsay, the head of Metrolinx, said, the opening will be a gradual ramp-up rather than a big bang launch. Yeah, we don't want to let people onto these too fast. God only knows what can happen if they do that. Now, some of you might think that once the Eglinton LRT and Finch West LRT open, that this will mean that the mission is accomplished and that this will be the end of the saga. However, let's not forget that we have lots of other transit projects that are also in the works, such as the Ontario Line, Scarborough Subway Extension, Yonge North Subway Extension, Eglinton West LRT Extension, and the Mississauga LRT that are all currently underway. And this does not include any additionally planned transit projects that are being floated around like the Shepherd Line Extension. Then there is also that Toronto and the GTA is going to continue to grow, that these transit projects are all managed by the same provincial government that remains virtually politically unopposed, and that the same transit and construction agencies that were never held accountable for anything will continue to spearhead these as well. Therefore, we can expect to see transit projects continuing to be built, going over budget, and being delayed as far as the eye can see. When the Eglinton and Finch West LRTs finally open, these are not going to be the end of the transit saga in Toronto, but merely the launchpad for much more to come. Now, I'm not being pessimistic, but just stating the facts that we all know and can see. A lot of people want to know what went so wrong with the Eglinton LRT and transit in the city, that we have come to the point that we're at right now, and I think that the answer to this is actually very simple to understand. The Eglinton LRT was pretty much contracted out to companies that literally didn't know how to do the job. But then once the government finally realized this, it was too late, and now all that they can do is peddle excuses to us and dodge questions. We are locked in with a premier that acts like he is the mayor of Toronto and the prime minister of Canada, yet anytime something is on fire in Ontario, don't look at him. Doug Ford talks about building Ontario as if he was God parting the sea so that traffic can travel through it smoothly, yet when you ask him about the Eglinton LRT, he suddenly has amnesia. Again, I am not being pessimistic about transit here in Toronto, but let's just say that if our problems were that we were too rich or too desirable of a city to live in, then so far the Eglinton LRT has been a fantastic success, because so far those are the only problems that it has solved. I hope that you liked the video. If so, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed and want to be notified of new videos that are released, please click on the Art Toronto button here. This is the video that I would recommend for you to watch next, and I'm sure that you're going to love it. Here's the playlist for all of the latest in transit news and views that you're going to find very informative and interesting. And finally, here is the latest video. Thanks for watching and happy transiting.